How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. Today we're talking about Cody Bellinger and the Bellinger aura, what he's brought to the table so far. I mean, it's spring training, right? Anything can happen during the regular season. A lot of these spring training performances, they're just small samples to kind of nitpick at and say, okay, like this guy's looking good in this area, maybe some tweaks and refinement there. Bellinger's, a true and tried player. He's been around for a minute now. He has an MVP under his belt. Obviously coming off a little bit of a down season with the Cubs last year, was only 9% above average, which is well below his standards. But Bellinger this spring so far for the Yankees is looking like an impact player. Now, he's not going to replace Juan Soto, but he is going to bring a little bit of a different type of game to the Yankees, right? He pulls the ball a lot to right field, and he gives you a lot more defensive versatility, a lot more defensive quality. So that is an element that the Yankees got substantial improvement defensively over Soto, but of course, Bellinger's not going to replicate the offensive production, but he's still a very good player, and we like a lot of what we've seen so far. Going to break him down, kind of what we expect from Bellinger and what his role will be on this team, and he's kind of going to be right next to Aaron Judge. He's going to be that, kind of Batman and Robin situation, Ryan. Before we dive into it, how you do today, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing great. And as you mentioned with Cody Bellinger, it is important to note in any conversation about Belly that he is not going to replace Juan Soto's value. He is not as good of a player as Juan Soto. And when you set realistic expectations for players, that's when you're able to either A, be pleasantly surprised, or B, rationally react to what they're supposed to be and kind of what they're expected to become. Because in most cases, the most likely or the right answer is the most obvious answer. And a lot of projections have Bellinger as a 110 to 115 WRC plus hitter. I'm a little bit higher on him than that, and there are a couple of reasons why. Number one, as you mentioned, he played in Chicago last year with the Cubs. Wrigley Field was the second worst ballpark in Major League Baseball for left-handed hitters, especially in the home run department. Cody Bellinger, if you just take his home games, because I understand you cannot play 100% of your games at one ballpark, but you can play roughly 50%, so I just took home games from Cody Bellinger last year and overlaid it over Yankee Stadium. And if you look at StatCast's would it have gone in this ballpark, he would have hit an additional 6 to 7 home runs. That makes a pretty massive difference on your OPS, even if all of those were hits. They weren't. Some of them were outs. But even if you wanted to argue, well, what about the hits that wouldn't have dropped the Yankee Stadium? Well, I'll take 4 bases. I mean, it takes 4 singles to make up the value of a home run. It takes 2 doubles. It takes a triple and a single. I mean, it takes quite a bit of offensive value to replicate the value of a home run. Those are instant runs. They're guaranteed runs. Singles are not guaranteed runs. You can hit 4 singles in a game. Well, the odds of this are low. You can end up with 0 RBIs and 0 runs. A home run is a run every single time, so therefore it is the most valuable form of offense. Bellinger's swing is, as you mentioned, tailor-made for Yankee Stadium. And so far in spring training, we are seeing some pretty significant improvements in the exit velocity department. Now, do I think they'll stick? Who knows? But he's hitting the ball around 93 miles per hour on average. That is compared to last season where it was 87.8 miles per hour on average. He hasn't had an average exit velocity above 91.1 miles an hour. That came during his MVP season in 2019. And so again, I don't expect him to hold 93 miles an hour, but can that number be closer to 89? Maybe it's, 89 miles an hour instead of 87.8. That's about a mile per hour uptick on average. His 90th percentile exit velocity has climbed for around 101.2 miles an hour to 103.5 miles an hour. Again, will that stick? I don't really know. But if he has improved exit velocity, if he has a tighter grouping of improved exit velocities as well, you want to see a tight, consistent group of exit velos. You don't want someone who's has a high variation from one batted ball to another. You want consistency in that regard. If Bellinger is providing that, that's going to be work really well for his batted ball profile. He's pulling the ball more, Alex, so far in spring training. He's pulled 54.1% of his batted balls. Again, that is spring training data. Will pitchers pitch him differently as a result? We'll see, but we have seen him pull pitches that are on the outer half of the plate or shoot those pitches to the opposite field. So I think Bellinger's swing just makes a lot of sense for Yankee Stadium, and I look at a 2022 Anthony Rizzo type season, and I think Bellinger is capable of that in terms of WRC plus and overall OPS plus value. The shape of that WRC plus, how he accumulates that offensive value, I expect to be different. I don't think he has the same level of pop as Rizzo did. Rizzo hit 32 home runs in about 130 games. I don't expect Bellinger to pace for nearly 40 home runs over 150 games, but I do expect a higher average. Rizzo hit 222 that year. He was a big-time slug first guy that season. I expect Bellinger to have a little more average to him, a little less slug, but if you can get that outcome where it's a near 130 WRC plus with the aforementioned defensive value in center field, as you pointed out, Alex, and the usually excellent base running value, I mean, this could be a player who ends up accumulating maybe 4.5 WAR. And again, that's not Juan Soto. In fact, that's like 50% of Juan Soto, but it's better than what you were getting from left field last year. And there is a world in which the Yankees accumulate enough value at positions where they were very bad last year that it does offset Juan Soto's value. And I say that to say that's not to give the Yankees slack and saying they shouldn't have signed Juan Soto. They absolutely should have. That was their plan A. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. But this is in comparison to the 2024 offense and the 2024 team. The 2024 Yankees were so bad at first base, were so bad in left field, were painfully mediocre at second base with Gleyber Torres, that when you combine that with Juan Soto's value, you end up with a value that isn't easy to replace, but isn't impossible to replace as well. If you're able to get that step up from Jason Dominguez over Alex Verdugo, who signed a deal that has him optioned to AAA right now. If Paul Goldschmidt gives you more than Anthony Rizzo did last year, which the bar on that is super low. Paul Goldschmidt could be a disappointing player and still be better than Anthony Rizzo was. And if Jazz Chisholm and Oswaldo Cabrera are improvements over what they had at third base combined with Gleyber Torres at second base, then they could end up having a pretty productive unit and a pretty productive offense. And again, it's just subtracting the dead spots in your offense, and Bellinger's part of that movement.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the team, as you mentioned, across the board, they got better in a few key areas. You mentioned Verdugo. They tried to replace Verdugo at the end of the season with Dominguez. He just wasn't ready to play left field yet. It was obvious. Like, they were throwing him in there, and he was dropping balls and, taking poor angles, and they were like, yeah, like, he's just not ready, and we can't risk that in the playoffs. Like, we can't risk a defensive issue in the playoffs, and obviously Judge drops a ball and they lose, but, that's kind of was unexpected and unforeseen. When it comes to the Yankees upgrades this offseason, Dominguez is naturally an upgrade over Verdugo. Verdugo has had 4 consecutive years of offensive decline, all the way to an 83 WRC plus. Dominguez is going to be substantially better than that, in my opinion. I think he's going to be at least an average player this year offensively. Defensively, yeah, there may be some hiccups time and again, but you have to give him the leash to get better. You know what I mean? Like, expecting a 22-year-old kid to go into a position he's rarely played and just step in and be great is very, it's not optimistic. And I think when it comes to him as an athlete, he's got the speed, he's got the awareness, he has everything you need to be a good outfielder. Just give him a bit of time to learn how to play the position. He's looked a lot better recently. I know someone clipped a ball that maybe he could have made a play on yesterday, but it was super windy in the outfield, and it ended up being a home run. Like, you just can't blame him for that. It's just nitpicking stuff that's unrealistic. So I think that, looking at Dominguez so far, last couple weeks, I've been pleasantly surprised about how he's taken pretty substantial steps forward in terms of his comfort in the outfield. So I like him. Obviously, as you mentioned, Paul Goldschmidt, he could be an average player and still be better than Rizzo. Like, he's a better defensive player, and he was a league average hitter last year, but this spring, Goldschmidt's been looking pretty good. I mean, I know he's dealing with that little sore back issue right now. It's not really a problem for him, just taking things day by day, but Goldschmidt is, a savvy veteran that's going to step in. He has some good power still. He can hit the ball to the opposite field. He's just better than Rizzo is, even though he's a little bit older. So you're going to get more value there too. Obviously, the injuries to the rotation hurt, but I do think this offense has more balance, and I do think they're going to get much better performances from guys like Austin Wells offensively. I think Jazz Chisholm going to be a 30-40 guy this year, like rare, unique pool of players that can hit 30 homers and steal 40 bags. If he plays 145 games, I think he played 147 last season, like, he will probably get close to those numbers, which would be astounding. You got 2 years of control with Jazz still. So, looking at this team, Ryan, do you feel that this offense is more balanced than it was last year? Because last year was top heavy. You had Judge, Soto, and the rest was like, we'll hope to God and figure it out. I feel like we may have a little bit more balance in the lineup right now, but maybe not as much of that star like slugging power. A little bit more of a little bit more contact. But again, we're leaning on a lot of young players to step up and provide really good results. Dominguez, Wells, Volpe, Rice is even going to be a key component now. Is that a risk? Do you feel that that's risky in nature, or do you think that they're going to step up to the plate?
Look, I think that you've made your bed. Now you have to sleep in it. The Yankees are, for the most part, done with additions. They may add a right-handed bat, but I doubt that player is, a gigantic needle mover. Now, I will say I think depth is important, and so I don't want to dismiss how important it is for them to add a right-handed hitter, preferably in the infield. Although I understand DH as well. I mean, there are some real concerns I have about their ability to hit. Left-handed pitching that I've vocalized multiple times in this podcast, but Alex, I mean, they absolutely can be a deeper lineup. And I'll also say this, they can still hit home runs. I mean, Bellinger hit 18 home runs in about 130 games last year in a ballpark that does not really bode well for hitting home runs. Paul Goldschmidt was, not great last year, and he still hit 20-something home runs. I think he hit 22, if I'm not mistaken. And he's someone else who would have hit more home runs had he played his home games at Yankee Stadium. So, Aaron Judge is a home run hitter. Jazz is a home run hitter. I mean, Jazz's numbers, when he plays, he hits home runs. That's just what he does. And this ballpark is very well suited for what he does. Jason Dominguez is capable of hitting home runs. He has hit a lot of home runs in his minor league career. He has really good game power and raw power. Ben Rice, even when he's not hitting well, still hits home runs. So I do expect this team to still be able to hit the long ball. But as you mentioned, it's not going to be with, two superstars at the top. Giancarlo Stanton hitting 27 home runs in a really short period of time. It'll be, hopefully a 1 through 9. All these guys can hit the long ball. The one player I think that is the most interesting in this regard, because I remember, kind of tracking them as a prospect and kind of stunned as to how his development has gone as a player. Quite frankly, I'm disappointed with the way that he's been handled in terms of his development, because I think that he's been kind of pushed towards the wrong direction. And that's Oswaldo Cabrera. Oswaldo Cabrera hit 6 home runs in 44 games his first time up. In the minor leagues, he was I'm going to pull the ball in the air and I'm going to hit a lot of home runs kind of guy. I mean, in 2022, he had an injury that limited him that year, but he hit 9 home runs in 52 minor league games. And then the year prior in 2021, he hit 29 home runs in 118 minor league games. So, his game was, I'm going to hit the ball out the yard, I'm going to pull the ball in the air, and I'm going to hit home runs. And it stopped being his game for some reason. And I'm not particularly sure if there's a good reason for that. I want Cabrera to hit home runs this year. I want Cabrera to say that right field porch is exactly where I need to be targeting. I need to pull the ball in the air and I need to hit home runs, because he's not going to hit 300 guys. He's not going to have a 350 OBP. That's not his game. That's never going to be his game. It'll never, ever, 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 ever be his game. His game was and should be, I'm going to try and hit home runs. And I know people in the comment section are going to say that, no, he doesn't have enough pop for it. Again, I have followed him as a prospect for years before his big league debut and was on that train before he made his big league debut. I promise you, he was a nobody until he started hitting home runs. So when what made him a good prospect is the thing he's abandoned at the big league level. He's got to get that back into the mix. I'm sorry. He's got to hit more home runs. That's got to be the thing that happens for Cabrera. I know last year I was talking about, I'm hitting more line drives because of Juan Soto. Buddy, you're not Juan Soto. Juan Soto can wake up and hit 322. Juan Soto can roll out of bed and pick up 2 hits in a day. Juan Soto's a special hitter. He's not a special hitter. But what he does have is the advantage of a short porch, a profile that doesn't have a lot of pop, but does have a lot of pull ability and does have a lot of loft in his swing. He's got to get back to doing that. That's going to be one of the keys to them winning ball games. Cabrera hitting, 15 home runs in 150 games and having a 95 WRC plus isn't sexy, but it'll be better than what they got from Gleyber Torres, most likely, in terms of overall value. I mean, Gleyber didn't hit 15 home runs last year, from my understanding, or he was like right at the 15 home run mark, and he was a piss poor defender. The bar for Gleyber Torres or surpassing that value is not high enough, where Oswaldo Cabrera should not that Oswaldo Cabrera should be expected to put up 1.5 WAR over 150 games. I mean, I am just overall pessimistic of putting a guy who I don't think is a full-time starter in a full-time starter's role. But if you told me in 2022 is Oswaldo Cabrera capable of putting up 1.5 WAR in 150 games, I'd say, dude, he's capable of doing it in 50. Like he did it in 50. That year he put up a 1.3 WAR in 44 games, and it was because look at the slugging percentage, 429, the isolated power, 182. He hit 247 that year. He hit 247 this past year. Big difference was the power. Oswaldo Cabrera never struck out more in a season than he did on a per rate basis than he did in 2022. And he was a better hitter and a better player than at any point of his career when he was doing that. So that's part of the equation. You mentioned Ben Rice as a key part of this. He's got to drop bombs as well, which he has been doing, which has been his priority, which is why he's having a good spring. Jason Dominguez, like Jason is the kind of guy though where I actually don't think he needs to sell out for the home run ball. I think he does have good enough bat to ball skills and a good enough feel for hitting for average that he could hit 270, 280 at the big league level. But again, that's Jason Dominguez, right? Jason Dominguez hits the ball really hard and can hit the ball hard to all parts of the field. He can hit the ball hard to left field. He can hit the ball hard to center field. He can hit the ball hard to right field. I doubt that Oswaldo Cabrera will ever have the opposite field power or the ability to hit balls hard the other way that Jason Dominguez does. I'd even say Ben Rice. I mean, look at Ben Rice last year. He had pretty good raw power, and he was struggling to get the ball out to the opposite field. How many times, Alex, did we see a ball die in left field from Ben Rice? Big guy. This is not a small dude. He's 6'2", and he's yoked. Oswaldo Cabrera is about 3 to 4 inches shorter and about 30 to 40 pounds lighter. With the way that Ben Rice has gained muscle, Oswaldo Cabrera looks like something Ben Rice could eat for lunch to bulk. You know what I mean? That's how big Ben Rice has gotten. You obviously have your Stantons and Judges of the world who can hit the ball hard to all parts of the field. Bellinger's game. Do you see Cody Bellinger saying, I'm going to hit home runs to left field? Absolutely not. Like, that's not because Cody Bellinger knows he can't do it. He can't do it reliably, at least. He knows his game's right field, so he's attacking that part of the game. I'd even say Goldschmidt has enough power to hit the ball to all sides of the field, but holding back to Cabrera, and I think he's a key piece here. I mean, look at even Volpe. He's hitting the ball hard this spring. People are ignoring that because the results are bad, because it's fun to dig on Anthony Volpe. It's fun to kind of just be like, Anthony Volpe sucks, and it's like, yeah, he does it, first and foremost, and secondly, this guy's hitting the crap out of the wall in spring. Some of them aren't dropping, but I promise you, those things will matter come regular season time. But again, going back to Cabrera, he seems to be the one guy in the offense who, like, I haven't seen that from. I know he's having a good spring, but I haven't seen that, like, oh, he's hitting the ball a little harder. Like, he's getting the ball to right field more often. I'd love to see that in the regular season. I'm not saying spring training is everything. You got to work on things. You can't just be so focused on your results this time of year. But I think that's such a key component here, man. Could you imagine getting 15 home runs and good defense from your 9-hitter? That changes everything, man. They didn't have that lineup depth last year. Alex, two of their starting players in the World Series. Verdugo wasn't signed to a normal big league. Like, he wasn't signed to a big league deal. He was signed to a split deal. Rizzo isn't signed, and no one wants to sign him. Verdugo didn't get a normal major league offer from all 30 MLB teams. Are you actually going to sit here and convince me that there are 30 MLB teams that are that there are 30 MLB teams out there, and the Yankees had that bad of depth and went to the freaking World Series? Yeah, that happened because of their star power. But this year, they're more well-built, as you mentioned. So, again, I just look at Cabrera and I go, man, if we could just get back to, like, hitting the ball to right field a little more, getting some more pop and juice in our game. I need somebody in his ear to be telling him that, man, because if he does that, I think he could be a little bit of he could be a solid player. Not a great one, just a solid one.
Yeah. And there's a world, I'll say this very mildly, there's a world where I think Ben Rice gives you more value than Stanton does during the regular season. And mainly it's not because he can only hit, he can play defense. He can help at first base, he can help as a backup catcher, he can fill DH. He's going to be healthy and consistent. Like, Stanton goes through those stretches of, like, he's elite for a week, his numbers rise, and then he's ice cold for 2 months. You know what I mean? He's been a sub 30% on base guy for 3 straight years. He had a 116 WRC plus last year. I don't think it's crazy to think that Ben Rice could be at that level, if not slightly better. And he's going to play all the time and help you in a little bit more ways defensively. So, I don't think it's necessarily like mildly. I think it's kind of a lukewarm take to say I think that Ben Rice could have a better year than Stanton did last year during the regular season. Obviously, postseason, Stanton is a different game, a different player, a totally different player. That he came out of nowhere. So, we'll see what happens. I think as long as Stanton's good for the playoffs, good for the end of the year, just to ramp up a little bit, we're happy. We're fine with that. We're good. But if Ben Rice has, like, a really good season, it's going to be like, okay, like, how do we fit him into this equation now? So it's going to be The Yankees, it's an embarrassment of riches if Ben Rice ends up becoming as good as we think he can be. I know a lot of people are still skeptics regarding him, but this is a guy. The metrics suggest that like he was getting unlucky, and then the luck started to change, and now his averages are skyrocketing. So like you're seeing it start to translate into actual production. Regular season's different and everything like that, and obviously we're going to see lots of Ben Rice this year. But you could argue that having him in a role where he's heavier, more power, can hit more home runs. He had 5 balls last year, Ryan, that landed on the warning track. You could argue with the added power now might have been home runs. So and that elevates his numbers substantially. 5 extra home runs in a 50-game sample last year would be a substantial difference. You're talking about what? 12 home runs over 50 games if those converted. That's you're talking about a guy that's hitting close to 30 homers over 150 games. So that's a big difference if he's active every day. So we'll see how things progress, obviously, and I think that he's going to be a key component on this team. Bellinger, I mean, you're already seeing he's kind of stepped right into this leadership role, and the one thing I like about Bellinger is that he wanted to be a Yankee, right? Aaron Judge, I mean, we heard the reports that he advocated for the Yankees to go get Bellinger. This is a guy that changes your defensive outlook in center field like head and shoulders. But, I feel as though that veteran leadership, a guy that wants to be here, he obviously is soaking it all up and he has, lots to offer. And even if it's just a 1-year deal, that's okay. He is going to be an asset for this team. And like it's kind of funny because he's not as good as Soto, but people are kind of overlooking just how good Bellinger could be. You know what I mean? Just how great his potential is in any given season. He's 29 years old. This is not a 33-year-old guy on a decline. This is a guy in the middle of his physical prime. You know what I mean? Like he could be tremendous in 2025 for us. And you could get maximum value out of a player like that. So, and he's got everything to earn right now. If he has a really good year, he could get extended for a massive deal somewhere. He has every reason to have a truly elite campaign. So, I'm really excited to watch Bellinger this year. Ryan, I mean, any last thoughts on kind of his game and what he brings to the team?
Yeah, my final thoughts on Bellinger would be he's in this kind of group of Yankees in the 2025 season where there are chips on their shoulders. Cody Bellinger was traded by the Cubs, who didn't have a phenomenal offense last year, and was traded just to get the money off the books. The Cubs said, we do not like we'll take Cody Poteet. And they immediately optioned Cody Poteet. We'll take a 30-year-old guy we're going to stash in AAA as our 6th or 7th starter, like the way we would have viewed Carlos Carrasco going into the season. And that's all you're worth. We're so happy to have you off our books. Paul Goldschmidt was almost immediately told by the Cardinals, like, we don't want you back, and we are not going to even bring. Doesn't matter how cheap you are. It doesn't matter how bad our offense is. Like, we do not want you back. We don't think you're worth even exploring the opportunity to retain. Marcus Stroman was someone the Yankees shopped around, and everyone in baseball said, we don't want this guy. I mean, there are reports coming out that teams might want Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery blows, or he blows now. I miss when he was good, but he's throwing 88 miles an hour now. And, he looks a little less fit than he did with the Yankees and Cardinals and Rangers, to say the very least. You look at Carlos Carrasco. Like, Carlos Carrasco's been like the worst pitcher in the world the last 2 years, and I'm still fairly pessimistic on what he'll be, but he's having a strong spring and will make this team. Will Warren was counted out by everyone because he had a really bad 2024 season. Aaron Judge is coming off of one of the most, let's be honest, that drop is one of the more embarrassing, and he'll be remembered for that for a very long time. Like, that will be part of his legacy unless he wins a World Series and wins World Series MVP. Stanton is, always kind of chip on his shoulder. I feel like there's always something he has to prove. Ben Rice trying to fight for his major league career. He's someone who shouldn't, like, realistically, Ben Rice was a 12th round pick and lost his last 2 collegiate seasons at Dartmouth. He's 25. He was a 25-year-old rookie last year. Like, Ben Rice shouldn't be here. If you look at just the draft pedigree, prospect status, and kind of what COVID did to his collegiate career, he shouldn't be here. He's not supposed to be here. JC Escarra is not supposed to be here. He was an Uber driver. He was out of baseball. He was playing in every pro league. He shouldn't, like, these are guys that are not supposed to be here. And Anthony Volpe has a lot to prove. Jason Dominguez, anytime he does poorly, everyone's loud about him. And as you mentioned, now that the guy looks good in left field, and now that he's swinging a hot bat, there are no more think pieces about Jason Dominguez. There are no more stupid posts about how he should catch a ball with the wind blowing 1,000,000 miles an hour and crash his knee into left field. That's something that people thought 2 weeks ago, but now you don't see those tweets anymore. You look at the bullpen. Every year the Yankees have guys who have had their careers basically on death's door, and the Yankees bring them back to life. There's a lot of adversity that a lot of these guys have faced to get to this point, to stand on March 21st and be in the big leagues and still be in the big leagues. And those guys have a lot to prove in 2025. Max Fried is the most expensive left-handed pitcher ever, is going to have to replace the best pitcher the Yankees have had really since CC, but I'd argue the consistency of Cole surpasses anything what CC brought. CC won a World Series, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. I'm just saying the consistency over 5-6 years that Cole has brought to the table. He also won a Cy Young. CC didn't really do that here. CC was awesome. This isn't this is just Garrett Cole is arguably the best pitcher the Yankees have rostered in my lifetime. You have Carlos Rodon, who, let's be honest, how much criticism has Carlos Rodon faced? He's been the poster boy of a lot of jokes. He has been. There is so much, again, adversity these guys have faced, and Bellinger's one of those guys. They have a lot to prove, and I feel like that could be their thing this year. Their thing could be, we have guys who have been written off, casted off, and we, the Yankees, have identified that these guys are good ball players. And our player development, we're going to win games because of our player development, because of our scouting, because of our ability to identify talent on the market. That is, and I guess the ultimate guy who wants maybe more than anything to silence the critics is Brian Cashman. More than anyone, I'm sure Brian Cashman sits in his front office and thinks, man, I am a 4-time World Series champion GM, and people still hate me. We've never had a bad team, and people still hate me. How sick would it be for the guy, despite all the injuries, despite losing Juan Soto, to put together a team that ends up winning the freaking World Series? There's that level of just prove these guys wrong. Say F you to those people with your play on the field. Bellinger's an embodiment of that, and I would love to see this team just do it. Just finally do it. No more of the bullshit talk. No more of the things that blow up in our face. No more of the stupid, undisciplined baseball that somehow ends up getting on. They only happen to do it in the most critical moments when everyone is watching. This team wasn't even that. Aaron Judge never dropped the ball like that. And then in Game 5 of the World Series with everyone watching and the Yankees on the cusp of pushing this to a Game 6, drops it. Garrett Cole is not a bad defensive player, and Anthony Rizzo is not he's not stupid. Anthony Rizzo was old last year and washed. He's not an idiot. And those two guys couldn't come together on that play. Only the recent Yankees could do stuff like that. You think of the Baltimore game, Verdugo, one of the best defensive corner outfielders in baseball, couldn't read a fly ball, and a play earlier, one of the most sure and complete defensive players at the position, at a premium position, Anthony Volpe, botches a easy ground ball that would have ended the game if he ran 30 feet to his left to second base. That only happens to the 2024 Yankees. And it feels like every year there's that embarrassing moment that makes you go, what happened? What's going on? This team has a chance to not be that. This team has a chance to win 95 games, play clean baseball while doing it, and maybe, just maybe, go to the World Series. And if they do it, Alex, it'll be one of the greatest stories ever told in this franchise history. And all 26 of those guys, and depth, and the management, and all that stuff, have the chance to that story. And I think Cody Bellinger is arguably the biggest X factor in that, because he's already gone through that. He's gone through being worst player in baseball, bounce back. Casted off now by the Cubs, playing for the team his father played for, playing for the team he's always seemingly wanted to play for. Maybe this is the year for him, and maybe that's the catalyst for this team.
That feels like a really good storyline to follow. Bellinger kind of bouncing around and having some sort of vengeance and having a really good season. So hopefully, he puts that together. But, as a New York Giants fan, I can tell you this. When you're used to something for quite a long time, it starts to become the standard, right? The Yankees, we're used to them being a very good baseball team, but just not being able to get over that final hump. We expect greatness from them because that's what they normally put out, is relative greatness. They have great players. They have some of the best in the game. They're competitive most 99% of every season, but they just can't win the World Series for whatever reason. But we have a standard. And normally they reach at least the standard, but to win a World Series, you got to go well above that, right? As a Giants fan, the new standard is being absolute cheeks. And all I can say right now is that's what we're used to. I look forward to the NFL draft. You know what I mean? I look forward to having a top 5 pick because I know the Giants are going to do anything during the regular season to make me happy. Like that's just what happens. You're conditioned to think a certain way. So yeah, Cashman is absolutely going to be a Hall of Fame GM one day because he put together a playoff competing team every single season for the most part for his whole career. And that is something to be, obviously proud of. But at the end of the day, I'll take a page out of Giannis's book. It's a failure unless you win a chip. You know what I mean? It's a failure unless you win a World Series. So that's how fans feel. Cashman's like, I put together a competitive team every year, but I can't play the game for the guys. They have to go out there, be healthy, and play and win critical baseball games. He's putting the guys together. The Yankees had the talent to win it last year. They just beat themselves, right? This year, they have a much better defense across the board, a more balanced offensive makeup, and a couple of young guys that are ready to explode. So we'll kind of see how these things take shape, and obviously the injuries to the rotation absolutely sucks and unpredictable, but what can you do? Cashman put together a rotation that was on paper the best in baseball for the most part, right? You had Garrett Cole and Luis Gil 2 weeks ago. Now you don't have either. So it's like, it sucks, it is what it is. I actually give Cashman a lot of credit. I think he did a really good job this offseason, putting together a year and a strategy that he was able to acquire a lot of pieces without giving up substantial value, and prepare to have a ton of money to spend on like a Kyle Tucker next offseason and have lots of long-term flexibility while being competitive right now. That is really hard to pull off. So I'll give him credit. I think he did a pretty damn good job this year. We have one of the best closers in baseball. We have one of the best left-handed outfielders in baseball still, and you added an ace, an insurance policy for Garrett Cole and Max Fried. Like, you have a lot of really good players. Paul Goldschmidt's a big improvement at first base at a nominal cost. He's cheaper than Rizzo and better. Of course we want a Christian Walker. It is what it is. But, a lot of people complain about the Yankees farm system. Yeah, their farm system isn't the best in the game. You want to know why? Half of them have graduated to being impact players for the Yankees, right? Volpe is an impact player for the Yankees. Luis Gil, impact player for the Yankees. Austin Wells, impact player. Ben Rice is situated to be an impact player. Jason Dominguez, impact player. Let's not forget, their farm system's weaker now because, they traded a lot of pieces away, but they're also using them on their own team in the majors. So there's a lot of things in context that goes in behind these narratives that are, in my opinion, just construed ridiculously sometimes. But this team is going to be competitive, even though the injuries have been a little bit sore to watch and they suck. And it just is what it is. It's baseball. Other teams are going to face them too. The Braves season ended last year when Acuna went down. It was over before they even got a chance. I know they ended up playing the Mets in the playoffs, but everyone knew they were going to get beat. Everyone knew that their season was over the second that happened. It happens to the best of them. So it sucks. It is what it is. But the Yankees put an insurance policy in place for Cole, with that Fried signing, and I think that's going to be a big deal for us. But nonetheless, it was supposed to be about balance. We did more so a long-form, roundabout video talking about the entire team and the balance and the structure of this roster, which seems to be better in my opinion. But I gotta say, I love watching these young players step up to the plate and rise to the occasion. It's such a blast to see the future of this team meshed with veteran experience and leaders like Judge and Fried and Cole and everyone being a part of this equation. It's really cool to see. This team isn't an aging, kind of star here. This is a team that has a really nice blend of veteran leadership and experience and production, and young players stepping up to the plate and becoming critical pieces in the equation, which is really fun to see and what long-term success looks like, by the way. So, going to be a fun year. Opening day coming up in just a couple days, my friends. Always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to drop a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.